A lot of parents say to their kids, put down your phones. I think some kids are saying to their parents, Mom or Dad, will you put down your phone?
Oh, boy.
I think that one of the best parenting tools is distancing yourself from overuse of technology, which hinders true conversations and intimacy and relationship and discussion.
Welcome to The Missional Leader, a podcast for kingdom-minded leaders who are looking for mission-forward insight, practical strategies, and spirit-led solutions. In each episode, we'll have conversation designed to fuel your calling, strengthen your leadership, and empower you to advance the gospel with clarity, courage, and conviction. Let's get started. Hey friends, Rob here. I'm excited for you to listen to this conversation today. And I recently had it with Groeschel. He's the founder and senior pastor of Life.Church. And he also leads one of the most popular leadership podcasts in the whole world. He's a tremendous leader. And I am so sharpened by his leadership whenever I'm around him. In this particular conversation, we talk about a niche topic, parent and family ministry. Craig opens up about how he has led his own family as a husband and as a father. He also talks about how he has created a family-friendly culture at Life.Church. There's so many leadership principles I've learned from Craig, but for him to get this transparent about his own personal journey as a father and as a husband just really was amazing. You're going to love this transparent conversation with Craig. Let's listen in. I'm on with Craig Groeschel, one of my favorite people in the world. Thank you again, Craig, for being on with us.
Hey, man, you're one of my favorite people in the world.
And I want to get really focused on a passion of both of ours.
Yes.
All right? We're both grandpas.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
You have 7, I have 3.
I'm pops.
Yeah, and you were more prolific than I was. Your quiver was more full than I was. 6 kids?
6 kids, yes, sir. 6 married children.
I know how super intentional you and Amy have been about parenting. People think of you a great pastor, great leader. I think probably the designation that you probably would be most thrilled with is great father.
Thank you.
And so how have you and Amy just been so intentional about your parenting?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm like humbled and grateful to God, and give a ton of credit to our faith community for our kids. We have 6 grown kids that are in strong Christian marriages, serving Jesus faithfully in the church. All 6 of them are either on staff with us, or their spouse is on staff with us, or both of them on staff with us at the church. And so their life is Jesus through the local church. And so I'm ridiculously thankful for that. As far as intentionality, what's interesting, is, we home educated our kids, and I'd say we had extreme views. And for years and years and years, we kind of thought that our views or our approach to parenting is what would help create the disciples that we wanted. And now, after more experience and looking around at different families, there are other families that had our same views and approaches, and their kids didn't turn out the same way. And so I honestly don't think that there's a best method of parenting, as much as what I would say is there's intentional, consistent, grace-filled, spirit-empowered, biblically grounded parenting. And
whoa, there's a parenting seminar in that loaded sentence you just gave us.
I can't say it again because I just made it up. But I don't think there's you can do home education or public school or private school. I don't think there's an education system that's best as much as an involved parent discipling their children in that education system.
And as part of that, when you talk about intentionality and sort of having a parent playbook, right? And you gave me some of those values. But I think what I've discovered, and I kind of seen in the conversations we've had together, like you've had 6 kids. Have you had to build 6 different playbooks based on who they are?
100%. And we discipline them differently. We reward them differently. We disciple them differently. You could put one in timeout, and it would be a nightmare. The other one would go and enjoy introverted time. And so, yes, entirely different.
So sometimes I'm hearing that parenting is complex and hard. Is that
not at all? Yes.
And just when you have it figured out, they change it up on you.
They change it up, and yes, I mean, and when they talk back about their childhood, I've got one that thinks we were the strictest people, others, and the other 5 argue back going, strict. They weren't strict at all. So their viewpoints are all different. of how we were and what worked and why it worked. And ultimately, I think it was, consistency. I think it's grace and truth. That, like, when, most Christians, we focus a lot on truth, but there really has to be grace in the truth. And then the community part is just unbelievable.
What's the greatest mistake you've ever made as a parent?
Oh,
when you look back and you just think, man, I wish I could do that over. Give me a do-over.
Well, I think a couple things. One would be that we trusted our system of parenting at times, our formula. This is what we do. These are the shows we don't watch. This is what we don't do, and this is what we do as a Christian family. And thinking that was the what created the success, and that just wasn't. Like, literally, if they'd watched the show or not watched the show or whatever, I think that we were too strict early on. We had too much leniency at other times. I think there's a million mistakes. I think the better thing, what we did right, if anything, was we kept our marriage strong. And we put our marriage first. And so they saw that they grew up with a Christ-filled, centered marriage. And then we kept them in a really great community the whole time. It was a really deep spiritual community that was led by parents that we want them to be like. So we had outside voices saying consistent messages into
Have you ever had to ask one of your kids for forgiveness for something you did?
Many times, yes.
Give me an example, if you don't mind. Personal.
Yeah. So I would yell over something. I'd overreact, and I have to ask for forgiveness. One time told a lie to keep them out of something, and they said, "Dad, you're lying about that." And I said, "You're right."
They called you out on it?
They called me out on it 100%. So I had to go back and confess not only to them, but to the person I told the lie to. And if I didn't do that, I would have lost all credibility with them. And so it's not that it wasn't that I lied that cost me the credibility. It's what I did with it that would have cost me the credibility, or didn't do with it. And so, parenting is a lot of apologies. If there aren't some, then we aren't parenting well.
It's not a very transparent relationship.
No, not at all.
And so you're a high capacity person, high visibility person, incredibly disciplined person. I like to say you're probably the most disciplined leader I've ever met. Structure in your life, all those sorts of things. If kids are anything, they're disruptors of structure and like discipline. How did you have to learn sort of balancing the A-type disciplined life you live that gets disrupted by the life of a child?
Well, for the first part of our lives, we kind of designed it to be disciplined around our children, meaning I think I was 39 years of age before I ever spoke anywhere. So
really,
I think so, yeah, maybe 30, maybe 38, 39 before I ever spoke anywhere. So I just didn't. One, I didn't have a lot of opportunities, but I didn't take them. So I was at home and really with my kids.
And that was a decision that you and Amy came up with together?
It was. I mean, we just felt, we weren't controlling parents, but we were involved parents. And there's a difference. You can be, there's those that are controlling and those that are involved. We were available. And we tried to kind of match their interest, and each kid was different. But I was disciplined around them. And then at some point, there are some disciplines that we just don't break for the kids, meaning, like Amy and time in God's Word that's first thing in the morning. And so what we noticed, oddly enough, is we never told our kids you should spend time in God's Word. But Amy did, I did, they saw it. And so my oldest daughter started doing it, and then my second daughter saw it and started doing it. So it wasn't that we had a rule, it was a culture. And so we created a culture in our home that was doable, achievable, admirable. It's something they wanted to be a part of. And it was, so we didn't create a lot of rules, at least later on. We were more relationship based. Someone else said this: rules without relationship leads to rebellion. And I really believe that in Christians' homes, we have rules, but without context of real relationship. And that's when they rebel against everything.
Spanking or no spanking?
I hate to say it out loud because people would say child abuse, but we did spank.
Would you spank again?
I think that the way that we spanked, I would spank again. And the way that we spanked was almost always very loving, intentional, discussion first, hugs afterwards. Yes, I would. I
loved what my father-in-law said to my wife when she was 12 years old. So this is, generations ago now, where it was common, right? It was It was practice. And he did something that was, I thought, pretty cool. He spanked her when she was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And then he handed her the belt. Mm-hmm. And he said, now I want you to hit me. Mm-hmm. And she said, no way, Dad. There's no way I could. He goes, that's how I feel about doing this when you don't listen to me. So we spanked. My kids don't. I don't know if it's just a generational thing or not.
It might be, but I think consistency, I think disciplining and love matters. And you don't spank to hurt someone. It's the conversation before and after with some sort of, withdrawal of a blessing or inflict some sort of punishment but consistency and conversation matters a lot. We pray with them and talk to them.
So you and Amy obviously had talked a lot about your philosophy of parenting. It sounds like,
yes.
and you'd kind of worked out the rhythms of the demands on you as a pastor of a growing enterprise and church, and what Life.Church is, and and all those things that you do. And had you sort of had to figure out like your role in the parent based on your time and her role, especially with homeschool, like that seems like it was a pretty big part of her being called. Both of you were called to be parents, but both of you were called to sort of have different roles in parents.
She had much more hands-on time, and so I give her tons of credit. She doesn't like to take it, but I just say, you, for the most part, discipled our children with God's Word open and educated them. And she said, well, you discipled with your example. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
I think it was true.
I do think that I helped set a tone in the house, and then she spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And interestingly enough, is a lot of my kids they resented it growing up, like, oh, Mom, you're too this, you're too that, and now that they are all young adults and many of them parents,
they've realized
they realize they love it. They're grateful for it.
And she's getting the fruit of all that investment.
Yes.
So much of her identity had to have been, like my wife's was, tied up in concentrating, as you said, as both of us are saying, as leaders, with our wives just being amazing moms, right?
Yes.
Now, a lot of their identity was tied up in that motherhood. How did you guys handle the transition of when you started going through the quote empty nest time, where, because I know Kim and I had to walk through this, like now a lot of her identity of how she did things, your identity continues. You're still a pastor, you're still leading an organization, but her entire identity in some way is shifting. Did you guys talk about that? Were you intentional about that season of life and change?
Yeah. So I got one thing right accidentally. And when my last child graduated, I thought I need to get Amy a present to celebrate her, which is kind of a random thought. And I went and got her a watch, and she's like, oh, you got this for my retirement from homeschooling. That was super emotional. For 20 some odd years, she had to homeschool our kids. And so I accidentally did something that meant way more to her than I realized it would. Here's what's a little bit different. Why it wasn't super difficult for us is because, she homeschooled our kids, but her identity wasn't as much in me being a mom to our children as much as it was her playing a role in our Christian family. And so what happened is loving her kids was as much about being together with me in ministry. And so we always nurtured that relationship. And so when the kids were out, then it became more about, well, my identity is now in helping raise kids who are raising kids. And so it's almost like they never left. They moved to a different place, but we're still ridiculously involved, and thankfully less involved, meaning like we're kind of glad, like the six of them,
like the best.
It is, but it's kind of like going, you guys are grown now, and kind of good luck, and now we're going to have this evening to ourselves. So it wasn't a loss. It was to some degree. So we're sad they're not there. We miss them when they were little. They climbed into bed, all that kind of stuff. So there is that, but it's more of a celebration of look at them now. This is what we were working
beautiful.
toward. They're in Christ honoring homes. They've got God honoring marriages, and so it was enough of a celebration to make the sadness bearable.
So I love how One Hope and Life.Church and YouVersion, we've got this incredible collaboration and partnership together. We built Bible app for kids together.
Yep.
We built Kids Bible Experience together. Now we're doing a parenting initiative together. It's just, I just love, you guys are really our greatest collaborative partner that we have in the world.
We learn from you. I mean, you're doing the study, the hard work. And so And we wouldn't be doing any of those things without you. And it's a mutually God-honoring partnership that we love.
Well, you're partly responsible for me sort of understanding, particularly in the American church, we mainly were working around the world when I first met you. And then we sort of said, well, America's a crowded market. Like the American church is rich. Like there's so many resources. They don't need us as much. But you made a simple statement. I don't even know if you remember it. One of the first times I ever met you, when I was talking about children's ministry for you. And man, Life.Church just has this amazing kids experience, right? Mm-hmm. You've got an incredible children's ministry. You have some of the best kids pastors in America. So you've got like premium children's ministry in your church. But almost the first time I met you, you said, it's not the church's responsibility to spiritually raise these kids. Right. It's their parents. And we're here to support our parents. Your number one children's ministry strategy is parenting.
100%. It has to be. Anytime a parent thinks I'm going to drop my kid off at youth group or kids ministry for an hour a week, when it's insane to think that that's going to make the difference. It's got to be the parents. And I'm very aware that we're talking into a million non-traditional parenting homes, meaning there's a divorce, there's a single mom, there's a single dad. And so the church comes along and is a massive support. But if it's not happening in the parent's home, the odds of a child becoming a strong disciple.
So one of the greatest spiritual disciplines that any leader has is their role as a parent. How do you make sure that in a team as big as you have at Life.Church, that they are good parents? Like the people that work for you are modeling what good parenting looks like. How do you do that intentionally among your staff?
I would say it's not easy. And especially even with our schedules, meaning like, many of our churches have church on Saturday and Sunday. So that's when kids are typically home from school. So it never, ever, ever, ever happens accidentally. It's got to be incredibly intentional. You can be a stay-at-home parent and not be a great parent. You can be two working parents and not be a great parent, or vice versa. You can be good at both. And so it's going to have to be hands-on.
Have you ever had to remove someone from a position because you just saw in clear evidence that they're not good parents?
I would say that there are a lot of times people self-select to remove themselves from a position because they recognize it. So the culture isn't so much that we should recognize it first. If we're doing our job, they're going to recognize it.
And you've had that happen?
Many times. They're going to say, it's not that I'm not a good parent as much as they might say I'm not available. I don't have time to invest in my kids and I want to.
So you prioritize parenting as more important than their position here at Life.Church or anything else. And so you've created this culture which they sort of raise their hand and go, I'm really not doing a good job at what Craig and the church have taught me is the most important thing.
I would say one of the things we say when you join the staff, we make 5 promises. And one of the 5 promises that your family will be closer to Jesus than ever before. We want your marriage stronger. We want your children plugged into the church, being discipled. And so that is one of the top 5 promises that we make to a new staff member when they come in the door. So what does that mean? That means if we've got 2 people that are dating, we're going to give them premarital counseling because we want to help strengthen their marriage. That means if a marriage is in trouble or a child is in trouble, we're going to give free counseling, meaning we're going to pay for the counseling. That means we're going to say not just you can take time off, but you can take off as much time as you need to be with your family, meaning we don't count vacation days. You've got total flexibility. So what we're trying to do, and we're going to give you resources. We got the parenting classes, we got all these kind of things, and we're going to give you parenting mentors. What we're going to do is we're going to create not a rule book, but a culture that is meant to help support your marriage, your family, your parenting, and come alongside you and become successful. Does everybody live up to it? No, they don't. But what we want to do is we want to create the environment that is ripe for creating great disciples within our homes.
I'm so hopeful, Craig, about this next generation. One Hope's just done a really deep dive on alphas, on this emerging generation. I was just here with your team at Life.Church and the YouVersion team as we're building out some of these parent resources. We just saw this amazing statistic that said that actually the most important voice in the life of an alpha, in the life of this generation of children, we would think with social media and like connectivity and all those things that we would see actual reversal. And it was super high in Gen Z, higher than millennials. Like the most important voice in my life is my parents. And we were like shocked. We were like, oh, man, we thought for sure it would be social media or their friends. But actually what Gen Z said is, no, actually, I know what my persona is on social media, and I know it's a false identity. So I know that those aren't true, authentic relationships, and I really need to hear from my parents more. They wanted to hear more from their parents. So we just came out with our alpha research, which just came out, and actually it's higher. I think it was like 62% of kids said that parents, and this is all parents, not Christian parents, all parents, the kids just saying parent is the most important voice in my life. Alphas was at 73%.
Wow.
So for me, that's just a prophetic call to Christian families. Like, your kids are listening to you.
Yes, they are.
Your kids are watching you. And that 13-year-old boy that seems like he's not hearing one thing you're saying, he actually is. Does that give you hope when you think?
Well, it does. And it also inspires me to say, like a lot of parents say to their kids, put down your phones. I think some kids are saying to their parents, Mom or Dad, will you put down your phone?
Oh, boy.
I mean, I am dead serious. I think that there are maybe as many parents that are addicted and disengaged in the relationships with their kids as there are kids that are being distracted by whatever their games and such. So I think that one of the best parenting tools is distancing yourself from overuse of technology, which hinders true conversations and intimacy and relationship and discussion.
You're being really convicting to me. I think my kids called me out on it. Like, just recently, my daughter, because I love grandparenting. It's it's the funnest role I have in my life right now. Like, there's nothing that stirs my heart like being with my grandbabies. It's just so great. And so my kids don't live near me like you have the privilege of doing. So I'm like always bugging my poor daughter, like, when are the grandkids coming down again? When are we going to meet with them? And just recently, she was there with my granddaughter, and she said, "Hey, Dad, can I talk to you?" And pulled me aside, and she goes, "You've been begging for Zoe to be here. And you're looking at your phone and you're not looking at her face." Man, Craig, it was like, whew, and it was like a knife in my heart.
Right.
So I'm just so grateful for that call out. I think it's a prophetic message you've got for us. Like, let's be intentional about our parent. And that's what it sounds like you and Amy were. You were super intentional, but even a little intentionality around.
And we tried to talk about everything from early on. And it got really special to me when my boys were getting married and we sat down and we had deep discussions about sex. And not for years we talked about purity, and then we got into like giving them like really detailed advice that no one's going to give them about how to serve and love each other.
Boy, it's so interesting you say that. In our research, we found that was the one area that Gen Zers were not saying that their parents were their greatest voice was in these areas of sexual identity.
Well, they're not. I mean, everything else is going to try to be that. And so we tried to, from early on, just talk super openly and show affection openly. And so it wasn't some kind of big secret. It was just, we wanted to talk about it like a normal conversation. And it's crazy. My daughter got married, my last daughter, and she was telling me she was a little nervous about her honeymoon. So I was asking questions, and after she came back, she told me, Dad, it was really special. And I mean, really almost more detailed than I was comfortable with. But we had built a culture saying that what's honorable to God is something that we're willing to talk about here. And it's really fun when you can engage with them at every level, whatever they're facing, from a 3-year-old conversation to a 15-year-old entering puberty to a 21-year-old getting married or whatever the age is. And if you make those subjects normal early, then you can talk about them for longer.
So appreciate. Tell me about some resources. You and Amy have been so intentional. I know you've got some resources out there for parents. Tell us what you and Amy have done. Where can people get more of your parenting material resources? Well,
you can follow us both on Amy or Craig Groeschel on social media. I would go to Life.Church, and Life.Church creates fantastic parenting material. We are beneficiaries of the content that our church creates, and so we
written a book on parenting.
We don't have a book on parenting.
Oh, come on!
No, we don't. Yeah,
it's time.
Yeah, it's. I feel like parenting is almost too nuanced to even try to put in a book form. It's fluid, and you have to be sensitive to the the needs and opportunities of every child.
Where we're building this parent resource together, so we're going to get some fluid, Craig and Amy Groeschel wisdom poured out on this new platform.
Well,
we're going to
you
build
get
together.
her, you'll get better wisdom from Amy for sure. I promise you that.
Well, Craig, I love you as a pastor.
Hey, I love you as well.
I love the title you have as leader, but I love that what you value most is your title as husband,
thank you,
dad, and grandfather.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm most proud of as well. So thanks for having me on.
Always love you.
Love you.
Thanks for joining me today. This episode was brought to you by One Hope, the organization where I have the privilege to serve and lead. At One Hope, we are passionate about affecting destiny by providing God's eternal word to all of the children and youth of the world. For more information about One Hope, visit onehope.net.